So I'm so pleased that Dr. Sheryl Cohen is with us again. We've had several conversations, one about anxiety and one about grief and mourning. And I thought it would be nice to have a conversation about love and happiness and how that is playing out in this pandemic. So I'm delighted that you're joining us again. And then we can talk about another piece of the human experience that we have and that is being shaped and influenced and buffeted, maybe perhaps we should say, by this pandemic. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. This should be a little lighter than the other things we've talked about.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I hope so. So let's start with love.
Okay.
We'll start with love. And
All right.
what is that all? How does that getting played out, if you will, and how is that being impacted by isolation or the social distancing and the kind of experiences that many of us are having?
Okay. Well, let me make this distinction as a way to begin. Is falling in love is different than love. So falling in love is really biologically driven and is a result of at least 300,000 years of human beings being around. And it's good that it is. It simulates intimacy, but it's not love. And it's not love because it's not conscious and it's effortless.
I'm sorry, say that again. It's not conscious?
It's not conscious. So it's instinctual. So if you remember a time when you fell in love, you're really altruistic and you do anything for your partner and you can finish each other's sentences and you're kind of obsessive and you're putting your best foot forward every time you're with that person. And that, we've got all kinds of good neurological and marital research to say that that phase lasts about 2 years. And then a different kind of love, and I'm going to define love kind of the way Scott Peck in that book, The Road Less Traveled, wrote, that love fosters the growth of the other person. And love is putting somebody else's thoughts, feelings, dreams as equally important to yours. Not more, but equal, reciprocal.
Does that transition from falling in love to love happen, I use the word naturally, but is it more unconscious or is it more intentional?
Well, the marital researchers would say that, every relationship goes through this period of enchantment, and then it could be an event sometimes, but often it's gradual, and then a period of disenchantment. So what you found adorable when you were dating the person now may become irritating or annoying. Like, oh, I love you because you're so sensitive. And that turns into, oh, you're so sensitive. So, please note the paraverbals there, right? But it's normal. I mean, it's typical. It's part of the life of a long-term relationship.
Is that so? So that 2-year mark, could that be a challenging time for people?
Yes, it could.
That's a place where people either because they're pushed through to the next level or in the next phase. I don't know what the right word would be, and that some
phase. Yeah. So when you're navigating this disenchantment, being able to know how to speak your partner's love language becomes very important. So this idea comes from a guy named Gary Chapman, who's a minister, who wrote a book, I don't know, 20 years ago, called The 5 Love Languages, which is available in paperback. And there's also a test for partners in the back of the book. You can also get the test online. And his thesis is that in real love, which is again fostering the growth of the other person as well as yourself, that people like to receive love in basically 5 different ways, which I'm going to talk to you about. And that often a partner will give love in a particular way, and that's really more about how they want to receive it, rather than what may really float the other person's boat.
So each person or in a couple, each has their own language, one of 5, and
right.
And the partners may not share the same love language.
Often do not.
And is
Often.
it okay? And for those of us maybe who've never, we didn't. Well, where do they come from? So I assume I must have one. Did I just?
Well,
how did I get it?
Well, there's 5 of them, right? So they are, and I'll go over examples for each of these. They are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
Okay.
So how you get a love language? Well, it's based on what you saw and what you experienced in your family of origin. When I present this to couples, to hetero couples in particular, the husband says, "Oh, well, mine's physical touch," because that means sex is part of physical touch. But often, when they take the test, they're often very surprised to find out that there's another one that may actually supersede physical touch. So let me go over what they are.
So first one is words of affirmation.
Yeah. So words of affirmation are appreciation, compliments, anything where you really see the world through your partner's perspective. So it could be, I appreciate you asking me to do this Zoom interview. I'm grateful for you to be my rabbi. All those are words of affirmation. Quality time. Quality time is giving somebody your undivided attention. So often a complaint between couples, not always the wife in the complaining position either, is sitting down and watching a TV program together is not quality time. But somebody may say, "Oh, well, we binge watched whatever." And the other person who's a quality time aficionado would say, "That doesn't count. You didn't even look at me. You didn't attend to me. We didn't even talk about the program."
Being together isn't the same as quality time.
That's right. So being in close proximity is not quality time.
Okay.
Quality time is quality conversation. It's offering empathy. It's not giving advice. It's attending. So I'll give you an example. I complained to a friend once who was attached to her phone that if she didn't put her phone down for the hour that we were having dinner together, that I no longer wanted to have dinner with her. Because I wanted her undivided attention. Okay, gifts. Receiving gifts. This is the easiest love language. And if you're fortunate enough to have a partner for whom this is their primary language, you are in luck. You just have to pay attention to what they like. So it has nothing to do with cost, by the way.
Okay.
So you making a handmade card for your anniversary may mean more to your partner than going out and buying a fancy one at the store.
So I just want to be clear: are gifts objects, or are they the behaviors?
Well, you know the expression that the biggest present that you can give is your presence.
Okay.
So that counts too.
Okay.
But generally, I'm talking about, I'm working with a couple for whom he thinks that there's Hallmark holidays and they're not worth much, and the wife is all about those.
Okay.
Has decorations for
Okay.
St. Patrick and Halloween and July 4th and Memorial Day, and you can't make a big of a deal for that. So he should pay attention to that. Okay, acts of service. Acts of service are when you do things that you know your partner would want you to do. These are a love language in part because they require not only paying attention, but they require thought and planning and time and energy. You could know if your partner has acts of service as one of their primary love languages by what kind of requests that they make. Requests on a good day and complaints and criticism on a bad day. So oftentimes your partner's criticism will give you a clue, the clearest clue, to what their primary love language is.
Okay. And when you say go, and you have one more touch, because I have a question. Let's talk about touch a second.
Okay. Physical affection and touch. So that's about sex, but it's also about affection. And it's some people are so-called touchy-feely and other people are not. I mean, that's actually, I feel sorry for the people for whom that's their primary love language, because we're going to reinvent that now post-pandemic.
Sure.
And, for those of us who like to give and get hugs, well, we're going to be thinking twice about that.
Right. And you use the word primary language. So are we a blend of them? Or are we a blend of all five?
Well, yeah. I mean, the greatest thing is if you know how to speak all five, right? So here's a clue. Here would be a clue, or clues for how you figure out what your primary or your top two love languages are. What does your partner fail to do that hurts you the most deeply? So your biggest criticism about the relation, we never spend time together, or how come all the housework is left to me, or he didn't even give me a card for my birthday. So often what your deepest hurt is will give you a clue to which one of these five it might.
And then the obverse would be that when your partner complains to you about you didn't do X, what you're hearing really is, that's my love language.
Yeah, that's the way you could love me best. Another question is, what's the most frequent request that you make of your partner? So, and sometimes on a good day it's a request, and sometimes on a bad day it could be a demand. And the third way is, in what way do you regularly express love to your partner? So like I said before, oftentimes we're giving what it is we actually want to receive.
Hmm.
So if you want to do it a little more scientifically, Gary Chapman on his website has a love language test. So you don't have to buy the book necessarily. You can just go online.
Take the test.
And it's a forced choice test. And then at the end, you add up the different items that correspond to the different love languages, and you'll see what you major in and what you minor in.
And there's no sense of, okay, so if I find out I'm a touch versus a time,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you're not going to change yourself. It's not, if you are, your love language is your love language. It's not like
Yep.
it's not like I would become, but the goal is to become, it's not about changing love, it's becoming more attuned to your partner's love language and understanding that the two of you may be communicating at sort of on the wrong planes. You know, you think you're saying something loving and it's not heard that way, you're doing something loving. And your partner's annoying and they're doing what they think's loving and it's not working.
Right. Yeah. So here would be something to do, and I often give to couples who are coming for therapy, is not only could you fill out one on yourself, you could also fill out one on how you think your partner's going to respond. And that is always very illuminating.
Right, I would think, and this is something, if giving that we're doing social distancing, couples that are separated right now could do this if they want to sort of enhance their relationship. They distance.
Yeah.
Couples that are sort of shoved together, who a lot of us haven't been out. Maybe this is a chance to explore relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've heard equal amounts for the last 2 months during the pandemic of people saying, having all this time together has really brought us closer. And I think it's been very stressful for lots of couples having all the time together and not knowing how to get some privacy. So I've never met two people in a relationship who have the equal needs for being together versus being apart. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things that have had to be negotiated during this time.
So let's say without a therapist involved, no offense, just as a professional, and the idea of, so a couple sitting around, they hear our conversation and they go, wow, we're going to take this test together. We think this is going to be a great way to spend an afternoon.
Uh-huh.
Or not.
Is there informed consent about that? Is that what you're asking?
I said what?
Is there informed consent about that?
Informed what? Is it good, if they go into it, are there things that they should be worried about, or is there a proper way to be prepared for this? Or you dive in, you see what happens, and you go, wow, that was illuminating.
Okay, so that would be the best kind of attitude. The worst kind of attitude would be, oh, I know what you want. I don't want to take this test. So approaching it with attitude of openness and discovery would be a really good thing.
So somebody says, they hear this and go, this is like really interesting, and says to their partner, I want to do this. This is really exciting. We heard this conversation. Rabbi, this therapist, really interesting. 5 languages love. We're home. We got nothing to do. We're not going to the theater. We're not going to the movies. Let's take the test. And the other one goes, I'm not doing this. This is silly. So how does that, so that person is
not having an attitude of openness and discovery. So, here would be the other motivation for the reluctant partner would be, if it would mean that much to your partner, what do you got to lose?
Mm-hmm.
It would be an act of love, just being willing to take the test.
Okay. So
that would be the way I would try to sell it.
And just to reiterate, I want to make sure it's not about changing anyone's language. It's about understanding your own and your partner's, and then having a conversation about, oh, I didn't know that about you.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is that maybe you predict your partner's love language just fine. And so, okay, that's a cause for celebration. You know your partner really well. And then the next question to ask is, so are you doing things that appeal to that person's primary love language?
Mhm. And
Rather than am I giving to you what I actually really want to receive from you and doesn't really mean that much to you?
okay. And this would all take place not when falling in love, but this is a conversation when you're falling in love or when you're in love. That because you made that distinction, or it doesn't matter.
No, I think it does matter. I think if you're past the 2-year mark in your relationship,
Mhm.
then I think these are active choices that you make
Mhm.
to help your partner feel loved.
Mhm. And if you're in
And
the love stage, what would you? That's different.
have fun. Have fun because it's just the first phase of a relationship.
Do you think it's been reshaped by all of this, the pandemic? This whole experience of loving and being loved and falling in love?
Yeah, when you asked that in the beginning, I'm aware that I'm not. I haven't talked to anybody who's trying to date
Okay.
during this time.
Hmm.
So I can't really speak to that. On one hand, if you're relating virtually,
Hmm.
then uh, physical affection and touch, regardless of whether it's one or both persons' primary love language, you don't get to do that. So you're going to have to expand your repertoire. So in a certain way, you're getting to know the person potentially more deeply.
Right, because that's off the table. So present
Yeah.
challenges for everybody, couples in all kinds of
Yeah.
whether together for a long time or a short time, whether being
Mhm.
pressed together or being pulled apart.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I got to say, from all the couples that I've challenged to take the test and do this, I've never really had a negative result. It's always been at least instructive, if not confirming.
And so again, say the guy's name again, so we can, if those people.
Gary, Chhaman.
Mhm.
Here,
Okay,
here is the book.
5 languages of love. You can type it in, and you go to his website, and you can take a forced choice test. Cheryl, thanks so much for doing this. This was great.
Yeah.
It's nice to do something, we dealing with anxiety and mourning. It was nice to do something uplifting and fun and that we can smile about because we are human beings and we experience the range of human emotions even in this challenging time. So
It was for me too.
it was nice to be with you. Take care, be safe, stay healthy.
Yeah, you the same.
Thanks.